ရာတော်ကြီးရဲ့ကိုယ်စားဘုန်းကြီးတရားလာဟောပါတယ်ဒီနေ့ဒီနေ့နဲ့လက်ဖန်နေ့ရက်ဆရာတော်ကြီးကိုယ်စားဘုန်းကြီးတရားဟောတောင်းကြပါတယ်
In absence of Siaroji, Siaro, the present Siaro is going to give the discourse for 2 days, that is today and tomorrow.
ဒီနေ့တရားမဟောမီယောဂီများကိုတိုက်တွန်းစရာတစ်ခုရှိပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါလေးကိုပထမဦးဆုံးပြောပါမယ်
Before Siaro starts the Dhamma preaching, Siaro like to encourage and point some points to the yogis.
တတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားကိုအထုတဲ့ယောဂီများအတွက်နံပါတ်1မိမိဖြစ်ချင်တဲ့ဆန္ဒကိုပထမဦးစွာအာယုပြုရမယ်နံပါတ်2မိမိဆန္ဒကိုအကောင်အထည်ဖော်ဖို့လိုအပ်တဲ့အရေးအသွေးများကိုလည်းပဲအားဖြည့်ပေးရမယ်နံပါတ်3မိမိရဲ့ဥတီချက်ကိုဆွဲမြဲထားပြီးတော့အားထုတ်ရမယ်အဲ့ဒီအင်္ဂါ3ချက်ရှိရင်တတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားအထုတဲ့ယောဂီများအောင်မြင်ပါလိမ့်မယ်ဝိပဿနာကြီးအကျိုးအမြတ်လည်းပဲရပါလိမ့်မယ်
Siara explained to all the yogis now who are taking up the Satipatthana Dhamma practice. Before we take up the Satipatthana Dhamma practice, we need to fulfill ourselves with 3 factors. Number 1 is in which way or what aim we would like to have. That is chanda. Chanda means it's a desire or a wish that in which way you want to happen. That is first aim you must have. And second is for this chanda or the wish to become flourish, then you need to build yourself with some abilities. So what are the abilities needed to make it happen? You have to make it happen. That is the second point. And third point is don't let loose of your objective or your main aim. So if one yogi can fulfill these 3 factors, surely you will attain the benefit by practicing Satipatthana.
ဒီနေ့ယောဂီများကိုဟောမယ့်တရားကမြတ်စွာဘုရားသာယုတ္တနိကေမှာဟောတော်မူတဲ့အာတိတအဝက်ကမှာရှိတဲ့ဓာရုခန္ဓောပမသုတ်တံဆိုတဲ့တရားဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဓာရုခန္ဓောပမသုတ်တံဆိုတာဟာရေမျောလာတဲ့တစ်သုံးတစ်ခုကိုဥပမာပေးပြီးတော့ဟောတဲ့သုတ်တံဖြစ်ပါတယ်
Today Siaro will touch on a Dhamma talk that was also expounded by the Lord Buddha, and it is shown in Sanyutta Nikaya and in the group of, and it is called as Daruka Nando.
Darukhando Pamatutta.
Darukhando Pamatutta. Darukhando Pamasutta. So that means the meaning of this sutta is giving a simile or an example of a log drifting down the river or a stream.
Darukhando Pamatutta sura Kutripatthanaတရားရှိမှပွားများတဲ့ယောဂီများမှာလိုက်နာကျင့်သုံးရမယ့်တရား10မျိုးရှိတယ်အဲ့ဒီ10မျိုးကိုလိုက်နာကြည်ကြံပြီးတော့ပွားများမယ်ဆိုရင်ယောဂီများတကယ်လူရှိတဲ့ ပန်းတိုင်ကိုရောက်ပါလိမ့်မယ်
To all the yogis who are taking up the Satipatthana Dhamma practice, there are 8 factors or 8 points of Dhamma one needed to follow and practice. If we are able to follow these 8 factors or 8 Dhamma nature, and if you are practicing it properly, Sayadaw guarantee that one can achieve benefit.
မြတ်စွာဘုရားရှင်ကောသံဘီမြို့အနီးမှာရှိတဲ့ဂင်္ဂါမြစ်ကမ်းနားမှာတရင်သုံးတော်မူပါတယ်တစ်ချိန်တုန်းကပေါ့မြတ်စွာဘုရားရှင်နဲ့အတူယဟန်အများလဲပါရှိပါတယ်အဲဒီလိုကောသံဘီမြို့ဂင်္ဂါမြစ်ကမ်းနားမှာယဟန်တော်များနဲ့အတူတကွတည်င်းသုံးတော်မူတဲ့အခိုက်အခုပြောပြတဲ့ဓာရုခန္ဓောဗမသုတ်တံကိုမြတ်စွာဘုရားဟောတော်မူပါတယ်
During the lifetime of Lord Buddha, in a town named Kosambi, which is located near the Ganges River. So, while Buddha was residing in that town, Buddha as well as many bhikkhu followers were there. So while they were residing in that Kosambi town, Buddha expounded this discourse, Darukkhando Pamana Sutta, which is now Sayadaw is going to proceed.
အဲဒီကောသံဘီမြို့ဂင်္ဂါမြစ်ကမ်းနားမှာမြတ်စွာဘုရားတရင်သုံးတော်မူတဲ့အခိုက်ဂင်္ဂါမြစ်ထဲမှာဟိုအထက်ကနေပြီးတော့တစ်တုံကြီးတုံမျောလာပါတယ်အဲဒီလိုတစ်တုံကြီးတုံဂင်္ဂါမြစ်ထဲမျောလာတဲ့အခါကျတော့မြတ်စွာဘုရားရှင်ကယဟန်တော်များကိုจิตตယဟန်တို့ဟောဟိုမှာဂင်္ဂါမြစ်ထဲမျောလာတဲ့တစ်တုံကိုဒီလိုမြင်ရရဲ့လားလို့မေးတော်မူပါတယ်အဲဒီလိုမေးတော်မူတဲ့အခါကျတော့ယဟန်တော်များကမြင်တဲ့အကြောင်းကိုပြန်ပြီးတော့ဘုရားကိုဆုထားကြပါတယ်
While Buddha and his fellow bhikkhus were residing in the town named Kosambi, at one time in that nearby was the Ganges River. So in that river, there came a log drifted down the stream. So when Buddha saw it, Buddha have asked his monks as dear sons, did you all see that log drifting down? So the bhikkhus reply, yes, sir.
အဲ့တော့ဘုရားကယဟန်တို့အခုဂင်္ဂါမြစ်ထဲမျောလာတဲ့အဲ့ဒီသစ်တုံကြီးဟာဒီမှာဖက်ကမ်းမှာလဲသူမကဘူးဆိုရင်ဟိုမှာဘက်ကမ်းမှာလဲသူမကဘူးဆိုရင်မင်းလေခေါင်မှာလဲနိမြုပ်ပြီးတော့မသွားဘူးဆိုရင်ကြီးကုန်းပေါ်မှာလဲတောင်ပေါ်မှာလဲမတင်မနေဘူးဆိုရင်လူတွေလဲမဆယ်ယူဘူးဆိုရင်နန်းတွေလဲမဆယ်ယူဘူးဆိုရင်ရေဝဲကြီးကလည်းစုပ်ယူပြီးတော့မသွားဘူးဆိုရင်ဒီအစ်တုံကြီးဟာအတွင်းကနေပြီးတော့ပုတ်ဆွေးပြီးလည်းမသွားဘူးဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒီမျောလာတဲ့သစ်တုံကြီးဟာမဟာသမုဒ္ဒရာထဲကိုစီးဝင်ပြီးတော့သွားပါလိမ့်မယ်
Buddha expressed to the bhikkhus by saying that as you have seen the log drifting down the Ganges River, the first point is if the log is not bank on this, if the log is not drifted on this bank, or it is not drifted to the other side of the bank. That is the second point. And third point is, if it is not drowned in the middle of the river. And the fourth point is, it is not stagnated or put it on an island. Number 5 is, if it is not drawn by the human beings. Number 6 is, if it is not drawn by the Deva beings. And number 7 is, if it is not drawn down by the whirlpool, big whirlpool. And number 8 is, if it is not destroyed or damaged from the inner core of that log, then this log will surely reach into the stream of ocean.
မြတ်စွာဘုရားကဘာဖြစ်လို့ဒီသစ်သုံးကြီးကိုဥပမာပေးပြီးဟောရတယ်ဆိုတော့တရားနာတဲ့ပရိသတ်များတရားအားထုတ်တဲ့ယောဂီများသီးလွယ်စေလိုတဲ့ဆန္ဒရှိတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်ဘုရားဟောတော်မူတဲ့တရားကိုလွယ်လွယ်ကူကူနဲ့သိစေလိုတဲ့ဆန္ဒရှိတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်ဒီဥပမာပေးပြီးတော့ဟောရခြင်းဖြစ်တယ်
Why Lord Buddha explained in a simile of this log is, as for all the meditators who strive in this meditation field, because Lord Buddha wants all the meditators, or those who are striving so, to be able to understand it easily about that nature, Buddha gave an example of this log drifting down the stream.
အဲ့ဒီတရား7ပါးကိုယောဂီများလေးလေးနက်နက်မှတ်သားဖို့လိုအပ်ပါလိမ့်မယ်
Shara reminds us that it is very important for all of us to remind in our mind about these 8 factors.
ခုဟောမယ့်တရား7ပါးကိုလေးလေးနက်နက်မှတ်သားစီလိုတဲ့ဆန္ဒရှိတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့တရားမဟောမီတဲ့ကယောဂီများကိုတိုက်တွန်းစကား3ခုဘုန်းကြီးပြုတင်ပြီးတော့ပြောထားခဲ့ပါတယ်
Because these 8 factors are so crucial, it is very serious for all of us to remember in our mind. That's why, as an introduction, Siara given the 3 points how we should aim, and that is because Siara wants us to make it serious remembrance in our mind. Siara has said so.
ဒီမှာဘက်ကန်းဆိုတာဘယ်တရားကိုခေါ်ပါသလဲလို့ဆိုတော့လူတွေရဲ့ခန္ဓာကိုယ်တွင်းမှာရှိတဲ့မျက်စိနားနှာခေါင်းတရားကိုယ်စိတ်ခေါ်တဲ့ဒီတရား6ပါးကိုဒီမှာဘက်ကန်းလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်
Number 1, this side of the bank mean, that is the 6 sense bases that is present in us, that is eye base, ear, nose, tongue, body base and mind base.
အဲ့ဒီတရား6ပါးဟာခန္ဓာကိုယ်အတွက်ကျေးဇူးအလွန်တရာများတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့သူ့ကိုအစ္ဆတိကတရားလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်
Because these 6 sense bases are bringing in numerous benefits to a being, that's why these are called as Isatika Dhamma nature.
ဘယ်လိုအိမ်မှာဖက်ကန်းနေတူတယ်လဲလို့ဆိုတော့တတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားအထုံနေတဲ့ယောဂီတူဟာတရားအထုံနေတဲ့အခိုက်အတန့်မှာအကြောင်းအားလျော်စွာမိမိမှာမျက်စိလေးမှာအနာရောဂါဖြစ်လာတယ်ဒီလိုအနာရောဂါဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့အခါမှာဒီယောဂါကိုအကြောင်းပြုပြီးတော့တရားအမထုတ်ပဲရပ်ပြီးတော့မနေရဘူးဒီအနာရောဂါမှာသိပြီးတော့စိုးရိမ်တော့ကဖြစ်ပြီးတော့မနေရဘူးအကယ်၍ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့မျက်စိယောဂါလေးပေါ်မှာသိပြီးတော့ကြောက်ရွံ့ထိတ်လန့်ပြီးတော့တရားလက်လွတ်ပြီးတော့နေလိုက်မယ်ဆိုရင်တရားဟာရှေ့ကိုတိုးတက်ပြီးတော့မသွားဘဲနဲ့နောက်ပြန်ဆုတ်သွားမှာဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့အဲ့ဒီယောဂီဟာအီမာဖက်ကန်းကိုကတ်တဲ့ယောဂီလို့ဆိုရတယ်
As for a yogi who is taking up the Satipatthana Dhamma practice, as these 6 sense bases are equivalent to this side of the bank, Sarah explained as, for example, Sarah explained that in your eye base, if there is any disease or illness occurred in your eye, on account of this illness or sickness in your eye, you stopped the practice because you become so anxious, you worried about it and you scared and you stopped the practice. So if you stopped the practice, then it will be a decline. So in that way, it is like the lock which is drifted on to this side of the bank.
ဒီလိုဆိုတော့မျက်စိမှာတစုံတရာအနာရောဂါဖြစ်လာရင်ဆေးဝါးမကုသပဲဒီတိုင်းထားရမှာလားလို့ဆိုတော့ဒီလိုလည်းမထားရပါဘူးတဲ့သစ်တော်တဲ့ဆေးဝါးများနဲ့ကုသပြီးတော့ဆေးဝါးလည်းကုသရမယ်တရားကိုလည်းရှုမှတ်လျက်နေရမယ်ဒီလိုဆိုလိုပါတယ်တရားကိုမရှုမှတ်ဘဲတော့ရပ်ပြီးတော့မနေရဘူးမြတ်စွာဘုရား
So when there is any disease crop up in our eye, then Sarah says, because it has said so, isn't it that we shouldn't take any treatment? It is not that way. Of course, we need to take appropriate treatment, as well at the same time, we need to continue our practice. So that is the reminder as given by our Lord Buddha.
So, Messi need to be na kong leya ku edi kanda ko ma phit paw la de ana yoga mya le be yoga phit paw la bi so yin thit taw de sewa tat sa mya ko phi we bi do taya ko le be shu myet tai shu bi do twa ya me di lo twa ma tha lin di yogi ya ho ka kan ko ma kat be ni me ke ywe taya ko ma shu man be ne ana yoga paw ma tha lin sait win sa bi do sait taw ka phit bi do ya lai me so yin edi yogi haဒီမှာဖက်ကန့်ကိုကတ်တဲ့ယောဂီပဲလို့ဆိုရတယ်
So likewise to the eye illness, we may have any kind of illness to our ear base, nose, tongue and body, etc. So if there is any kind of illness occurred in our body to these 5 bases, we need to take appropriate treatment as well. We need to have proper diet. So if we are taking the appropriate treatment and proper diet at the same time, we need to continue with our meditation. But instead, on account of these illnesses, if we stopped, then it is equivalent like the lock which is banged on this side of the bank. So that's why it is very important not to stop.
ခုပြောလာတဲ့အတိုင်းမိမိရဲ့ခန္ဓာကိုယ်မှာလက်တွေခြေတွေခန္ဓာကိုယ်အစိတ်အပိုင်းတွေမှာတစုံတရာအနာရောဂါမှဖြစ်လာတယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲတစ်တော်တဲ့ဆေးဝါးများနဲ့မိဝဲစားသုံးပြီးတော့တရားကိုရှုမြဲတိုင်းရှုပြီးတော့သွားပါမရှုပဲမမှတ်ပဲမနေပါနဲ့တရားကိုရှုမြဲတိုင်းရှုမှတ်ပြီးတော့သွားတယ်ဆိုရင်အနာရောဂါလည်းသက်သာပျောက်ကင်းမြန်တယ်တရားလည်းရနိုင်တယ်
So in the same manner, if there's any kind of illness in any part of your body, example like to your hands, upper limbs and lower limbs, then if you are taking appropriate treatment as well at the same time, if you are noting continuously in accordance with this Satipatthana Dhamma practice is important. If not, and if you stop it, then there is no progress, there will be no progress in your Dhamma practice. So that's why Sarah explained, if one is able to note continuously, at the same time taking treatments to the illness part of your body or sick part of your body, then your part of your body which is sick will be cured, and at the same time too, it will induce you to attain the Dhamma progress.
ဒီခန္ဓာကိုယ်ဤတူမိမိရဲ့စိတ်လည်းပဲတခါတခါမှသတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားအထုရင်းနဲ့အလွန်တရားပြင်းပြီးတော့ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတာပါတယ်တ တရားကိုအမထုတ်ခြင်းတဲ့စိတ်ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတတ်တယ်မိမိနေရာဌာနကိုပြန်ခြင်းတဲ့စိတ်ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတတ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုစိတ်ထဲမှာတရားအမထုတ်လို့တဲ့ဌာနတွေဖြစ်ပြီးတော့ကိုယ်နေရာကိုယ်ဌာနကိုပြန်ခြင်းတဲ့စိတ်များဖြစ်ပေါ်လာပြီဆိုလို့ရှိရင်လည်းပဲအဲ့ဒီစိတ်ယောဂါကိုလည်းပဲအချိန်မီတရားရှုမှတ်ပြီးတော့ပယ်သွားပါတဲ့စိတ်ယောဂါနောက်ကိုမလိုက်ဘဲနဲ့တရားကိုရှုမှတ်ပြီးတော့သွားပါစိတ်နောက်ကိုပါသွားမယ်ဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဟာဒီမှာဖက်ကန့်ကိုသွားကတ်တဲ့ယောဂီပဲ
So likewise, to any kind of illness in our physical body, it can also occur in our mind as well. So that means while we are pursuing in this Dhamma practice, at times in our mind we feel very bored, we feel very lazy, we got fed up with this practice. So in that sense, we want to go back home and we wanted to turn our back. So if there's any kind of these mental behavior crop up in our mind, Sayadaw says it is very important for the yogi to note it precisely and continuously. But instead, if our mind is drifted along with all these mental behavior, then that means you are in decline and you cannot note, you are not in progress, which is somewhat like the log is drifted on to this side of the bank. So that's why Sayadaw remind to all the yogis that don't follow to the mental behavior of these negative thoughts whenever crop up in your mind.
ဒါကြောင့်ယောဂီများမှာမျက်စိနားအစရှိတဲ့ခန္ဓာကိုယ်အစိတ်အပိုင်းတွေမှာအကြောင်းအလျော်စွာအနာယောဂါမှာဖြစ်လာတယ်ဆိုရင်တစ်တော်တဲ့စေဝဓာတ်စာများကိုပေးကမ်းဖို့ဆိုပြီးတော့ကုသဖို့ဆိုပြီးတော့ဒီမှာဆရာဝန်တွေအစဉ်သစ်ရှိပါတယ်အဲဆရာဝန်တွေညွှန်ကြားတဲ့အတိုင်းစေဝါများကိုမှီဝဲစားသုံးပြီးတော့ဆက်လက်ပြီးတော့တရားအထုတ်သွားမယ်ဆိုရင်မိမိအလိုရှိတဲ့တရားတွေယောဂီများမှာအစဉ်ပြေပါလိမ့်မယ်ဒါဒီမှာကျမ်းမာရေးအတွက်လည်းပဲအားလုံးအစီအစဉ်တွေရှိပါတယ်
So if there's any illness occurred in our physical parts like eye illness or ear illness or any part of our body, then it is very appropriate to take the proper treatment. That's why Sayadaw explained in this center, a clinic is set up and there is a doctor is there, and you can ask you can consult the doctor and take any treatment as you need it so. So while you are taking treatment, as well at the same time, don't stop the practice, just continue your practice. So if you can carry on your work in that manner, then the Dhamma progress will be in appropriate manner.
လွန်ခဲ့တဲ့3နှစ်ကအခုလိုပဲတရားစခန်းဖွဲ့တဲ့အခါမှာသွားကြိုက်ယောဂဖြစ်လာတဲ့အမေရိကန်မှာယောဂီတူဟာဒီကဆရာဝန်တွေကတစ်တော်တဲ့ဆေးဝါးများသူ့ကိုပေးတဲ့ခါကျတော့ဗမာပြည်ကပေးတဲ့ဆေးကိုသူမယုံကြည်ဘူးဆိုပြီးတော့အဲ့ဒီသွားကြိုက်ယောဂကိုအကြောင်းပြပြီးတော့အမေရိကန်ပြန်သွားတဲ့ယောဂီတွေရှိခဲ့ပူပါတယ်ဒါကြောင့်ဒီစကားကိုသူသတိပေးပြီးတော့ပြောရခြင်းဖြစ်တယ်
So about 2 years back, this kind of retreat was performed in this center. So there was one American lady, one American man who had a toothache. So as it happened, he was advised by the Bhikkhu teachers to take the appropriate treatment from the doctors. But he said that he didn't trust the Burmese doctors. So that's why he went back to America straight off on account of that toothache.
အခုပြောလာတဲ့တရားတွေဟာမျက်စိစားတဲ့တရား6ပါးအပေါ်မှာအစွဲအလံကြီးပြီးတော့မိမိခန္ဓာကိုယ်ပေါ်မှာစိုးရိမ်တော့ကလွန်ကဲပြီးတော့ဖြစ်လာတဲ့အခါမှာတရားလည်းလို့မဖြစ်စီပဲ ရှုမှန်တဲ့နည်းအတိုင်းရှုမှန်ပြီးတော့သွားမယ်ဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒီယောဂီဟာခုပြောလာခဲ့တဲ့အပြည့်များကလွန်မြောက်ပြီးတော့မိမိအလိုရှိတဲ့ပန်းတိုင်ကိုရောက်နိုင်ကြပါတယ်
So as explained, if there is any illness occurred in our six sense bases, like eye illness and etc., then if one has too much of attachment to these parts of your body, some are excessively attached to the own parts of the body. So in that way, they become so afraid and scared, so they cannot pursue the meditation. That means they are out from the line of this Dhamma practice. Once they are out from the line of the Dhamma practice, how can he or she will have the progress? But instead, as he or she will pursue the Dhamma practice as guided by the teachers, then he will be freed from all these faults, as Sarah have explained as 8 factors. Then one will be disentangled from all these bondages, and one will be able to achieve the aim and objective at one time.
Number 2 ဥမာဖက်ကံဆိုတာကဘာလဲဆိုလို့ရှိရင်အစင်းအတန်အစရှိတဲ့တရား6ပါးကိုဥမာဖက်ကံလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်
So we come to the second point, that is that side of the bank. That side of the bank means all the 6 sense objects like sights, sounds, smell, etc.
အစင်းရဲ့အပန်းရဲ့အနမ်းရဲ့အယတ္တရဲ့အတွေ့အထိရဲ့သဘောတရားရဲ့ဒီတရား6ပါးဟာဟိုမှာဖက်ကန်းလို့ဆိုတယ်ဘာလို့ဆိုတော့သူကခန္ဓာကိုယ်ရဲ့အပြင်ဘက်မှာရှိတဲ့တရားဖြစ်လို့ပဲအစင်းမျိုးစုံအပန်းမျိုးစုံအစရှိတဲ့အာယုတွေဟာခန္ဓာကိုယ်ရဲ့အပြင်ဘက်မှာရှိတဲ့တရား6မျိုးဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့အဲ့ဒီ6မျိုးကိုဟိုမှာဖက်ကန်းမှာရှိတော့တရားလို့ခေါ်တယ်
So as explained, all the sights, all the sounds, all the smell, different types of taste, any kind of tangible objects, and all different types of mind objects. These are the external things or the external sense objects. So that's why all these external 6 sense objects are considered as they are on that other side of the bank.
တတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားရှုမှတ်နေတဲ့ယောဂီတယောက်ဟာမျက်စိနဲ့အဆင်းကိုတွေးဆုံမိတဲ့အခါမှာမိမိနှစ်သက်သဘောကျတဲ့အဆင်းယူပါယုကိုတွေ့ရှိရတဲ့အခါမှာတရားလက်လွန်ပြီးတော့နေတဲ့ယောဂီများအတွက်မြင်ရတဲ့အဆင်းပေါ်မှာတဏှာဆိုတာဖြစ်တတ်တယ်မိမိသဘောမကျတဲ့အဆင်းကိုမြင်ရတဲ့အခါကျတော့ဒေါသဆိုတဲ့စိတ်ငင်းစရာတွေဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတတ်တယ်အဲ့ဒါလိုမြင်မှုအဆင်းယူပါရုံအကြောင်းပြုပြီးတော့ယောဂီမှာဖြစ်ရတဲ့လောဘဒေါသဆိုတဲ့တရားတွေဘာကြောင့်ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာသလဲလို့ဆိုတော့ရှုမှန်းမှုမရှိလို့သို့မဟုတ်ရှုမှန်းမှုအာနယ်သွားလို့အမှားတတိလောသွားလို့ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့သဘောတရားပဲအဲ့ဒါလိုအမှားတတိလော့ပြီးတော့မြင်ရတဲ့အဆင်းအာယုကိုကြောင့်ပြုပြီးတော့မိမိမှာလောဘဒေါသစတဲ့ကိလေသာတွေဖြစ်သွားမယ်ဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒီယောဂီဟာဟိုမှာဖက်ကန်းကိုကတ်သွားတဲ့ယောဂီလို့ဆိုရတယ်
As for a yogi, whenever our eye base come to see or come to collide with any sights or seeing object, then if he or she fails to note, one is out of the line of this Dhamma practice. So if one is out of the line of this Dhamma practice, then as soon as one sees attractive or adorable object, instantly one will develop tanha or craving. And contrary to this, if we seize any object which is displeasurable to our seeing, then instantly we will develop dosa or anger. So why we develop these greed and anger, Sayadaw says, because it is one failed to note at the time of seeing, or maybe the yogi's noting mind at that point is weak or weakened. That's why one develop greed, anger, etc. So if one is developing any kind of defilements like greed and anger on account of the seeing sense, then that yogi is considered as he or she is drifted on to the other side of the bank.
ဒါကြောင့်ဒီလိုအမြင်အာရုံနဲ့ဆက်စပ်ပြီးတော့ကိလေသာတွေမဖြစ်အောင်ဆိုပြီးတော့မြင်တဲ့အာရုံကိုမြင်တယ်လို့ပဲထပ်ထပ်ရှုရတယ်။ရှုမှန်းနေရင်ကိလေသာတွေမဝင်နိုင်ဘူး။မရှုမှန်းဘဲနဲ့ထားရင်ကိလေသာတွေဝင်နိုင်တယ်။ဒါကြောင့်ကိလေသာမဝင်အောင်မြင်တဲ့အာရုံပေါ်မှာမြင်တယ်လို့ထပ်တလဲလဲရှုပါ။ထပ်တလဲလဲရှုနေရင်ကိလေသာမဝင်နိုင်ဘူး။ အကြောင်းအားလျော်စွာကိလေသာဝင်လာတဲ့အခါမှာလည်းပဲဖြစ်ဖြတ်လတ်လတ်တတိတရားရှိပြီးတော့ရှုမှတ်သွားမယ်ဆိုရင်ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့ကိလေသာကိုအချိန်မီတားမြင်နိုင်တယ်။ဒါကြောင့်မြင်အာရုံပေါ်မှာကိလေသာမဖြစ်အောင်လဲနေထိုင်တတ်ဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်။
Whenever we see an object as a yogi, we must note it instantly as seeing. If we are able to note precisely at the point of the sense of seeing, then there is no chance for the defilements to seep into your flow of the mind of noting. But if we fail to note, then defilements will seep into your noting mind. So that's why it is important to note instantly as soon as there is a sense of seeing, and repeatedly we have to note on that sense of seeing as seeing. So if we are noting with sharp mind and noting it instantly, then there is a protection or prevention for the defilements to seep into the line of your noting. If we are able to note it in that manner from the sense of seeing, then there is no chance for the defilements to crop up in your mind. So that's Sayadaw remind that if a yogi is able to note it in that manner, there is no defilements will crop up in your mind, and try to stay in that manner as much as possible.
အမြင်အာရုံနဲ့ဆက်စပ်ပြီးတော့ရှုမှတ်ပွားများနိုင်တဲ့တတိစွမ်းအားထက်မြက်လာတဲ့အခါမှာယောဂီကိုယ်တိုင်ပဲအမြင်အာရုံကိုရှုမှတ်လို့သမာဓိတရားဖြစ်ပေါ်လာဖို့သမာဓိကိုအခြေခံပြီးတော့ဝိပဿနာဉာဏ်ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာဖို့ကိုယောဂီကိုယ်တိုင်ပဲတွေ့ရပါလိမ့်မယ်။ဒါကြောင့်အမြင်အာရုံကိုမြင်တိုင်းအမြဲရှုမှတ်ဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်။
So whenever we encounter the seeing object, then we need to note it precisely, instantly, and continuously we have to note it. So as we are noting so, once our stamina of noting is becoming high or strong, then our sati or mindfulness power in our mind will be strengthened. If the mindfulness power is strengthened, yogi, one would come to understand with one's own experience. At the same time, you develop samadhi while noting so on the sense of seeing. That is, you have accumulated concentration in yourself while noting so. So once the samadhi or concentration is accumulated in your mind, then the wisdom follows. So that's why Sayadaw reminds us it is very important for one to note it continuously.
ဆင်းယူပါယုံဤတူပဲနားနယ်ကြရတဲ့အပံတွေ နှာခေါင်းနဲ့နှမ်းရှူရတဲ့အနံ့တွေရှားပါးစားနဲ့စားရတဲ့အစားစရာတွေခန္ဓာကိုယ်နဲ့ထိတွေ့ရတဲ့အာယုန်တွေနဲ့စိတ်ထဲမှာဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့စိတ်ကူးစဉ်းစားကြံစည်မှုအာယုန်တွေအပေါ်မှာလည်းပဲမျက်စိနီးတူရှုမှန်းပြီးတော့သွားမယ်ဆိုရင်မိမိမှာကိလေသာတရားတွေတစုံတရာဖြစ်ပေါ်လာပွဲမရှိဘဲနဲ့ရှေ့ဆက်ပြီးတော့အထုသွားတဲ့အခါကျတော့သမာဓိဝိပဿနာဉာဏ်တွေတိုးတက်ပြီးတော့လာပါလိမ့်မယ်အကယ်၍အခုမျက်စိနီးတူကြံတဲ့အာယုန်တွေပေါ်မှာမရှုမှန်းနိုင်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့မိမိမှာလောဘဒေါသစတဲ့ကိလေသာတွေဖြစ်ပေါ်လာမယ်ဆိုရင်တော့ဖြစ်အဲ့ဒီယောဂီဟာဟိုမှာဖက်ကန်းကပ်သွားတဲ့ယောဂီလို့ဆိုရတယ်ဒါကြောင့်ဟိုမှာဖက်ကန်းကိုမကန်းနိုင်အောင်တတိထားပြီးတော့အမြဲတမ်းရှုမှတ်ဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်
So like the sense of seeing, with our ear base to the sound, to our nose base to the smell, to our tongue base with the taste, and to our body base with any tangible objects, and to our mind base with mental objects. So if we are not able to note it continuously to these sense object with a sense basis whenever we have to note, then there is no chance for the kilesa or the defilements to seep into the line of your mindfulness practice. So if there is no chance for the defilements, then your mindfulness is strengthened, you develop concentration, which will conduce one to obtain vipassana jnana or wisdom. But instead, if we fail to note to the sense of seeing and etc., then surely we will develop greed, anger, etc. If we develop these greed, anger means, in other words, these are the defilements that are interrupting into the mind of your mindfulness practice. That means it is like a lock which is stranded on the other side of the bank. Yogi also is stranded on the other side of the bank.
Nava zonga myola de titongyi mille kauma nimyu twa de soda ba le soda ko era ko set pi do pyo pya me.
Now Sarah will proceed with factor number 3. That is how the lock is sink in the middle of the stream.
Titongyi mille kauma nimyu twa de soda ka Nandi raga ko khaw pare. Nandi raga soda ha ayaya maနှစ်သက်ဆွဲလန်းတွေ့တာမဲ့မို့တဲ့တဏှာကိုနန္ဒီရာဂခေါ်တယ်။အဲဒါလိုအရာရာမှာနှစ်သက်ဆွဲလန်းမှုတွေ့တာမှုမဲ့မို့မှုအဲဒါလိုလောဘတဏှာတွေဖြစ်ပေါ်လာပြီဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဟာမင်းလက်ကောင်းမှာနင်းမြုပ်သွားတဲ့တိတ်တုပ်ကြီးနဲ့ဥပမာတူတယ်။ဒါကြောင့်ဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတဲ့တဏှာမှန်သမျှကိုအမှတ်တတိတရားနဲ့ပယ်ရှားပြီးတော့ရှုမှတ်ဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်
How the lock sink in the middle of the stream means this is referred to the word Nandi Raga. Nandi Raga means, after all, it is crave or lust. So whenever a being attach or crave or you like that any kind of object too much, then you surely develop lobha or greed. So if there is lobha or greed, and if it is mounted up too much, and if you fail to note, then it is considered like the lock which is sink in the middle of the stream. So not to be sink like the lock in the middle of the stream, it is very important for the yogis to note with sati, with mindfulness practice, we need to eradicate.
Nandi raga ဖြစ်တဲ့တဏှာ၃မျိုးရှိတယ်။တဏှာ၃မျိုးဆိုတာကကာမတဏှာရယ်ဘဝတဏှာရယ်ဝိဘဝတဏှာဆိုပြီးတော့တဏှာ၃မျိုးရှိတယ်။တဏှာဆိုတာလောဘကိလေသာကိုဆိုတယ်
When we have to come to understand the word Nandi raga, after all, this is pointed out to tanha or craving. When it comes to the word tanha, there are 3 types of tanha or craving. That is kama tanha, craving to all the sensual object. And second is bhava tanha, craving of becoming. And third is vibhava tanha, that is craving of extinction. So all these comes under lobha or greed.
Kama tanha sura aku leshi bhava ko sway lan de tanha ko kama tanha lu khaw de. Leshi mimi ye bhava apaw ma sway lan mu ajira ko kama tanha lu khaw de.
Kama tanha means Sarah explained the craving to the sense object mean in the present lifetime we have so many senses. We have too much of attachment to these. So this is called kama tanha.
Edi kama tanha ha Satipatthana Taya atho lo Samadhi Vipassana Ñan in a kaung la bi so yin mimi ye bhava ko tway ta de tanha di phit phit ayo pi do twa ba liye. Ei ayo twa de ajaung ko le be yogi ko dai ko ja ti ya ba liye. Da jaw mimi ye leshi bhava koသိပြီးတော့အတွေ့အတာမထားဖို့တွေ့တာထားလုံးတယ်ဆိုရင်မိမိကိုတွေ့တာထားတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကိုပဲဒီတဏှာကနှိမ့်ဆက်သွားမှာဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်အဲ့ဒီကာမတဏှာဖြစ်တိုင်းကိုသတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားနဲ့ရှုမှတ်ပြီးတော့သွားဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်
So this kama tanha or craving to the senses or to this lifetime, as much as a yogi is building up strong samadhi concentration and accumulating more of vipassana wisdom, then that yogi would realize to oneself that your attachment to yourself as well to all the annexed nature would be weakened as you pursue along this practice. So in that way, your attachment to this lifetime will become weakened. But instead, if we fail to do so, then our attachment to this lifetime will be great, and this pile of tanha is very strong, and that will threat you even to your next lifetime. So that's why Sarah reminds us, whenever any kind of tanha or greed or crave arise in us, we have to note it with sati or mindfulness. If we are noting with sati or mindfulness time and again, then we will be weakening our attachment to ourselves.
Now, bhava tanhaဆိုတာကတော့ဒီသတ္တတဒိဋ္ဌိနဲ့ရှင်တဲ့တဏှာကိုဆိုတယ်သတ္တတဒိဋ္ဌိဆိုတာဘဝဆိုတာမြဲတယ်ခုကမ္ဘာလောကမှာရှိတဲ့တတ္တဝါတွေဟာဘယ်တော့မှပြုတ်ပြတ်မှုမရှိဘူးဘဝကုံဆုံးမှုဆိုတာလုံးဝမရှိဘူးအမြဲတမ်းတတ္တဝါတွေကကမ္ဘာလောကကြီးထဲမှာတည်မြဲနေတယ်လို့ဒီလိုဆွဲလန်းယူတဲ့အယူကိုသတ္တတဒိဋ္ဌိလို့ခေါ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီသတ္တတဒိဋ္ဌိနဲ့ရှင်နေတဲ့တဏှာကိုဘဝတဏှာလို့ခေါ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီဘဝတဏှာကိုလည်းပဲကိုယ်မှဖြစ်ပေါ်လာတယ်ဆိုရင်တတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားနဲ့ရှုမှတ်ပြီးတော့ပယ်ပါလို့ဘုရားကဟောတော်မူတယ်
Sarah explained the second tanha or craving that is termed as bhava tanha, that is craving of becoming. How one would have the craving of becoming means it is connected with the belief or understanding of Sassara Deity. Sassara Deity means it is the belief in eternity. That is, as for a being, for all in this world and the next world and all along, there is no dying. From one lifetime another, it will be always continually, you will be living. So in that way, if a being is believing it very strong, then that belief is connected with bhava tanha, that is craving of becoming. So as for a yogi, whenever one have this kind of craving in one's mind, or crave in one's mind, then it is very important to note with sati or mindfulness.
တန်တရားကဝိဘာဝတဏှာဆိုတာဟာ Uksida Dictin Shin that Nagu, we bought at now, look for it. Uksida Dicti Sura, that the one, yeah, the wine, now Boam Shiro, but what a sepia barrel. At the low, Eddie Uksida Dictin Shin to any that Nagu, we bought at now, look for it. Eddie, we bought at now, you, Yogi Yama people lying level, the Dipatan Piavi Shuma Pamia Bido, Payame, Lusuluai.
So Sierra touched on the third kind of tanha, that is called Vibhava tanha. Vibhava tanha means it is craving of extinction. That is, there are people who believe in this world. It is, in Pali term, is called as Oseda Dechi. In this world, that once you die on this earth, then everything perishes, everything is eliminated and no more of becoming. So in that way, they thought there is a complete cessation of becoming. So this is a kind of belief and it is called as Oseda Dechi. If there is any kind of crave which is connected with this theory of elimination or extinction, then if we know to ourselves, we have to note it with Satipatthana and expel it instantly so that Vibhava tanha or craving of extinction have no chance to crop up in our mind.
Kubiola get Kamatanaye, Bhavatanaye, Vibhavatana. Aitanna Tungago, Swaziland, hinting that to it Tara needed the Bogo, Nandi Raga, look at Eddie Nandi Raga, the Yashituha, Mille Goma, Yogori, Petoni Ubuma, Tayago Eddie Nandi Raga, Tiago, Shumapu and Tiaga, Macaron.
All these three types of tanha, called as kama tanha, craving for senses, and bhava tanha, craving of becoming, vibhava tanha, craving for extinction, all these three come under one heading called as nandi raga, or lust. So whenever we are aware of ourselves that this nandi raga arises in our mind, we have to note it instantly. But if we fail to do so, then it is like the log which is sink to the bottom of the river in the middle of the stream. So likewise, we will be sink to the pool of this cycle.
Kigoma Tini de Sudet Tiaga, Badiale, Sudo, Managu Suare.
Now from on, Sarah will touch all the other remaining factors in brief. Number 4 point is, the log is stranded on an island. That equivalent nature is called mana, conceit or pride.
Dima mana suraga, Agami mana lukore. Agami mana suraha, Ngada tade, Ngada dore, Sadipi, Buwimi needed the Bogo, Mana lukore. Eddie mana they are Tangwa, Tekwa Bido, people lare so in Yogi Miaha, they are Lelo Bido, people at that day. Taya, they are human need a Bogo Miama. Mimigo a young Bido, Mamana, they are. People lare suyin, Eddie Mamana Diago, Vibadana Diana, Humabiro Dwawa, Mamana Nago Nago, Laibiro Dwame suyin, Eddie Yogi ha, Kigoma, Tinde, Etogino Uboma Duare.
So this mana or conceit is called as asami mana. This is a kind of superiority complex, because one will consider to oneself that I am the only one who can do this. I am superior to these and so forth. If one is having this kind of mana or conceit, then if as a yogi, as soon as we know of our mind, we have to note it instantly and precisely. But if not, if we fail to note, then we will be carried away with the stream of this mana or conceit. So that Sarah reminds us that it is important for the yogi to note as soon as this mana or conceit arise with as vipassana Dhamma noting. If not, if we fail to do so, then we will be carried away with this strength of this mana or conceit. If it is done so in our mind, then it is like the lock which is stranded on the island.
Number 5 It don't you lure save this or a valet solution. The dividend the human ponya need a yogi miaha. The ya upon matava, a cha upon mataya. The ya mimi human ponya need it, the ya go darling, a poor lubionia. A cha though yogi miane, a pong poor lubionia. A kay a cha yogi miane. Yo no pounding satsan biro thinking mimi dwe dada nime suyin. Eddie yogi ha, Taya atumu lila biro dwadade. Ayamo, Taya apoma dava, a cha apo mataya. A cha do yogi miago, a pound ponine, Dwa ni time piome sume suyin. Eddie yogi ha, Lure panse, Titonine, do the yogi ve. Taya yogi ha. Acha yogi miane, the yidni, Manitayabu, the ya apologiro neva, Sulua.
So Sarah explained the number 5 factor, or the 5th factor. That is, when that lock is taken out by the human beings, that means it is while we are taking up the Satipatthana Dhamma practice, we have to make our companion. The only thing is the Dhamma. But instead, if we are making friends with our fellow yogis, and if we like to appreciate and we talk or we go here and there and making friendship with others, then we are failing to note in this Dhamma practice. That's why Sarah explained it is very important for the Dhamma practitioner to have Dhamma as your companion, but not to your fellow yogis. So if you are staying in with fellow yogis, talking to them, making friendship with them, that means you are like the lock which has been taken out from the stream by the human beings. So Sarah says not to be taken out by the human beings, make it Dhamma your companion.
Number 6 Nandu Sayudware, Tetongine to the Yogi Sura, Vale Suro. The Tribatan Diago Atuneta Yogi Diaga. Neibango Utayama Asa. Neibango Umate Vene. Aku Mimi Atunida the Tribatan Dia. Achigan Tila, Tamadi, Pina. Mimi Atunida the Latamadi Pina Diariha. The Bogani Vido Suti Dwara Kajaro. Nambawa Napigo, Mochaikan Yame, Sebiro, Napigo, Tanda, Yoli Biro. They are Ature Yogi, Miaha, Ludi said that they don't Uguma do it. Taya, they are to the Yogi Miaha, Nebango that put the Biro Atoyade. A chado, Nambawa, Jamabawa, Tabigo, Tanda Biro, Amtua, Suluade. A gay Nambawa, Jamabawa, Tabigo, Tanda Biro, Atume, Soyin, Eddie Yogi ha. None to say you that it don't do that yogi.
So Sarah touched on number 6 factor. That is, the lock is taken out from the stream by the Deva. As we are pursuing the Satipatthana Dhamma practice, our aim is to reach to Nibbana. But instead, as we are practicing with Sila, Samadhi and Panya pathway, then we know that we are making a noble path, and after our death, we assume that we are, instead of making an aim to reach to Nibbana, we assume that after our death, we sure are going to become either Brahma or Deva. So, if our objective or aim is to become Brahma or Deva, instead of aiming to reach to Nibbana, it is like the lock which has been drifted by the Deva from the stream.
Number Konga Valesra West of Kayade, Pitong Upama, to the yogi. West of Kayade Sura, Valesra, Kamago, Navago, where look for it, ye will look for it. A sin of an ayada, a twitchy corre, the Kamago Navago. The Ayungawa go Lexa Vido, Kanza Vido, Pyo Baba, Nitangada Bugumiaha, west of the yogi, Lusure. Tayao, the Asin Ana Ayanda, a tweet, correct, the Kamagungawa, tweet die, Mother Titayane, where Sha Vido, Nitandapu Avare, a Kayu, the Tilelo Vido, the Kamagungawa go Mimiga, Sitaja. Sego, slow bit of time so in human Mumishivan and Sego, Lolola Tabiro, the Kamago Nava Boma, are you suicide or name so in Eddie Yogiha, West of Kayane, Yogine, Upuma, Tetoni Upuma Tuare.
So Shara touched on number 7 factor. That is like the lock drawn down to the bottom of the stream by the wild pool. So in that way, this equivalent nature is to the 5 senses. That is, whenever we meet with adorable sights, sounds, smell, taste, and touch, then instead of noting, we enjoy to these senses. Sarah explained that whenever we are aware of these kind of sensations, we have to note it instantly and precisely. But instead, if we fail to note and let our mind go and enjoy on all these pleasurable sense of seeing, etc., then it is like the lock which is drawn down to the bottom by the wild pool.
Number Shigaro Petipatan Dea Shuman Pomani Yogi Miatema. Yahan so shin level Yahan Tila Pizo Hulu Ade Shintamini Mia so shin level Shintamini Mia Kiwo Tila Pizo Hulu Ade Yogi Lu Yogi Mia so shin level Shepa Tila Pizo Hulu Ade Mimilo Kiwo Tila Tikarigo Mapi Mesong Bene Nitine Yogi Miago Mias of Yatinga a twin pope sweet Titone Uma Ture Lusue Dilo Tila Mapizo de Bogumiaha, the Tibatan Tiago, Belubi, Atuzigamu, Mimi Mantare, Panda Pita, Niban Tiago Mayanagu, a Chiga, Tila, Pizo Madani, Niban Tiago Yane, Tayamo, Mimi Saya, Kugi Tila Tiago, but PMC, Nitandapu Ade, a Kayu Tila Pisiwadi, Soyin, Eddie Yogi, a twin folk sweet, Titoni Upama, do that Yogi, do Suyawari.
So Sarah touched to number 8 factor. That is, for the bhikkhus, they need to observe the bhikkhu sila or morality properly. Likewise, to the novice too, they have to observe the sila accordingly. And as for the yogis, we need to observe 8 precepts properly. But instead of we are observing the sikha or morality properly, then we cannot realize Nibbana. So this kind, as in a simile, it is shown by the Lord Buddha as it is like the lock which is damaged from the inner core of the lock. So only for one who have fulfilled one's sila or morality, then in the end you sure would reach Nibbana. If not, if there is any breakage in your sila or morality, it is like the inside of the lock is damaged, you yourself has damaged inside of you, and you cannot enter Nibbana.
Kupiola gede inga shipane locking ware kinga miete ma miola de tetongyi ha kupiola de inga shipane mangiswan bu so yin di tetongyi ha tamodiya the ko si win twa ma aman phit take lo be khu Daripatan Tiya atho de yogi mya le be ima phekkan ma le makat bu homa phekkan ma le makat bu မြင်းလေထဲမှာလည်းပဲမြုပ်ပြီးတော့မသွားဘူးဒီကုန်းပေါ်မှာလည်းပဲမတင်ဘူးလူလည်းမဆယ်ဘူးနန်းတွေလည်းပဲမဆယ်ဘူးဝယ်လည်းစုပ်မခံရဘူးအတွင်းလည်းမပုတ်ဘူးဆိုရင်ဒီအင်္ဂါ၈ပါးနေပြည့်စုံတဲ့ယောဂီဆိုရင်မောက္ခဧကံဒီနေ့နိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုရမှာအမှန်ဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်မို့သူပြောလာခဲ့တဲ့ဓာတုခန္ဓာပမာသုတ်တံတရားတော်အတိုင်းကျင့်ကြံကြဖို့လိုအပ်ပါတယ်
As Shara explained, like in the given example, like the lock, if that lock is freed from these 8 factors, then that lock in the end would enter to the ocean. So likewise, to all the yogis or Dhamma practitioner, if we can disentangle ourselves like the lock, not to stranded on this side of the bank or that side of the bank, and we are not sunk to the bottom, and we are not stranded on the island, and we are not taken away by the human beings nor the deva, and we are not drawn down by the whirlpool, and there is no damage inside of us, then at one time as we are pursuing in the practice of Satipatthana, Shara gave an assurance that at one time you sure will enter into the ocean of Nibbana. So that is how it is shown in accordance with Dharukhanda Pamana Sutta.
တိတုံကြီးသင်္ကန်းမြတ်ထဲမှာမျောလာတဲ့တိတုံကြီးဆိုတာကတော့ဒီအခုအာထုနေတဲ့တရားနာနေကြတဲ့ယောဂီတွေကိုဆိုလိုပါတယ်။ဒါကြောင့်ခုပြောလာခဲ့တဲ့အင်္ဂါ၈ပါးထဲမှာမငြိမစွန့်ပဲနဲ့မိမိတို့လူလားတဲ့နိဗ္ဗာန်ဓာတ်ကိုအမြန်ဆုံးရောက်နေဖို့ရန်အတွက်သတိပဋ္ဌာန်တရားကိုဆွဲဆွဲမြဲမြဲအထောက်နိုင်ကြပြီလျှင်မိမိတို့တကယ်လူလားတဲ့နိဗ္ဗာန်ဓာတ်ကိုအမြန်ဆုံးမျက်မှောက်ပြုနိုင်ကြပါစေလို့ဆန္ဒပြုရင်းတရားပဲဆုံးသတ်လိုက်ပါတယ်
So Shara explained that the yogis now are equivalently considered as this example lock. So if we are able to disentangle from these 8 factors, and as we goes on practicing Satipatthana Dhamma practice, in the end you would enter the ocean of Nibbana. So now as Shara has come to the end of today's preaching, Shara blessed to all the meditators that may you all be able to practice diligently in this Satipatthana Dhamma practice to realize the Nibbana in the end. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhana in the end. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhana in the end. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhana in the end. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhana.